Hey everyone, if you're new, thanks for checking out my channel. If you're returning, then welcome back. This is my 1998 Honda Accord EX-V6, affectionately known as Whitney. Bought this car when I was a freshman in college. In my search for a first car, I was about 18 years old, and I test drove 3 different cars before I purchased this one. Test drove a 2002 Acura TL Type S. I test drove a 2000 Honda Accord EX-V6, so the same body style as this one, just a couple years newer. And I believe I test drove a 2000 Honda Civic as well. And ultimately, this is the one that I ended up with. Again, 1998 Honda Accord EX-V6. This one is dark emerald pearl, which is like a darker shade of green. As I mentioned in a few videos before, it commonly gets mistaken for either black or someone's even said blue before, which I don't see at all, but to each is his own. I'm going to go over a few details on the outside and then give a somewhat in-depth overview. Starting out at the front, a few things to make note of. First, the factory fog lights. Those have been in the car since it was brand new, far before I owned it. The license plate started out black over the course of the past 2.5 years maybe. Just the sun has turned it this orange rust-ish color, to put it simply. CG1 is part of the VIN code. Whitney is the name of the car, if you will. It comes from the name of my favorite singer, Whitney Houston. And then 98 is clearly the year of the car. The red Honda badge comes from EK9 Civic Type R. It wasn't a perfect match or a perfect fit. I had to do some trimming, but it's on there nonetheless, and it's been there for the past, I would say, around 2 years. The headlights, the headlight lenses, I should say, are a dark housing design. The headlights are actually LED. Since it is so bright outside, I might show that off. I'm not sure how well it's going to come across on camera though. The turn signals do remain incandescent or halogen, however. There's the Honda banner. I put that on there a few months after I purchased the car. The somewhat younger me thought that that would look good. I would say there was a point when I kind of regretted it because I thought it looked kind of cheesy, but it's on there for good now. I'm not going through the trouble of peeling it off and having to deal with the residue and stuff like that. While we're up in that area, this is also a sunroof visor off of a 7th generation Accord. If you didn't know, I used to own a 2004 Honda Accord with a manual transmission. If you're interested, you can check out those videos. I'll leave it somewhere in this video and in the description box. But before I sold that car, I took the sunroof visor off of that because I thought it would look good, and I think I was pretty correct. Moving on to the side, I'll first start off with the pinstripe, actually. A part of the reason I kind of never want to get this car repainted, if I don't have to at least, is because I really appreciate the pinstripe. That's not something that I see on many newer cars, including the new Honda Accord. Moving down to the wheels, these wheels are off of a 6th generation Accord as well, a little bit newer one though. These were the wheel designs, excuse me, for the 2001 to 2002 Accord EX-V6 Coupe, so the two-door variant of this car. These wheels have been on and off this car a couple times. The first time I put them on, the tires were not ideal, and one of the tires ended up blowing, so I took all 4 of them off until I could get some replacements. And these are the replacements. These tires are less than a month old, so they'll be on here for quite a while from now. I definitely appreciate the split spoke design of these wheels over the factory design for the 98 to 2000 sedan. They are 16 inches as opposed to the 15-inch wheels that came on the stock wheels. Obviously, this is the Accord sedan, so 4 doors. The single overhead cam VTEC sticker on the side, that's been on there since 2019, 2020, I want to say. Obviously, the car is powered by a 3-liter single overhead cam V6 with VTEC, so that kind of makes sense. Moving around to the back, there is the OEM spoiler. That actually wasn't on the car when I bought it. However, I was able to find one on eBay that was paint matched and everything, so I bought that and installed it myself. It has the third brake light, again, red Honda badge from EK9. LED tail lights, those have been in there since 2020 as well. You can see the paint back here is not in perfect condition. I have touched it up a few times before, but I think that's an uphill battle that I'm not going to ever win completely. So if it starts to peel off too severely again, I will touch it up again, but I think that's just to be expected with the age of the car. Dual chrome muffler tips, again, not on the car when I bought it. and I was able to find some a few months after I bought the car, and I installed those. With the 6th generation Accord, you could get muffler tips as a dealer accessory, I believe. However, this one did not have it from the original owner. The Accord badge is plasticated black. Then there's the black and chrome V6 badge right there. I'll do a quick walk around the exterior just so you can see the overall condition. The car is freshly detailed, so it looks pretty amazing right now in my opinion. Obviously I'm biased when it comes to that. Something else I forgot to mention included the window visors on each of the 4 doors. I had those at one point. 2 of them fell off, so I just ended up taking all of them off. I was able to find some ones of higher quality, so I installed those, and here they are. Alright, moving to the interior, the car does have keyless entry, so one click unlocks the driver's door, another click unlocks all 4 doors. The interior is nothing spectacular, however, I think for the age of the car it's held up relatively well. I'll start with the door panel. You can see that it's lined in some really nice leather up here in the door card. Right here, I want to say this is vinyl. Wood trimming around the power window and power mirror controls. Only the driver's side is auto down. It's not auto up, and the rest of these are not automatic either. Lockout for the windows. Then there's the power mirror controls right there. Moving down here, I have an LED light in there, excuse me. The original one, clearly for the age, was incandescent. Some map storage in the pocket right there, and then a speaker. I'll just kind of work my way from left to right. There's the control for the fog light, on and off, cruise control main, and then the sunroof controls. There is close, open, and tilt in the middle, and then there's just some coin storage right there. One AC vent over here, and then there's another one on the opposite side, and then just 2 in the middle. Steering wheel, nothing elaborate, nothing fancy. There is the steering wheel audio controls. Those don't work with my aftermarket stereo. And then there's cruise control, cancel, resume, accelerate, set, and decelerate. Gauge cluster, analog, very simple. Tachometer off to the left, speedometer in the right, and then the coolant temperature and the fuel gauge off to the right. And then the only digital portion is the little trip computer and odometer at the bottom, as to be expected. This is just a wireless charger that I have that doubles as a phone mount. I keep that in my car because my phone only charges wirelessly, which is a different story. There is the 2 AC vents again, clock in the middle. I did replace that today actually. My own clock had a nice crack on this side over here, and I just didn't like the aesthetic of it, so I found a replacement today, and there it is. You can see that I have the OEM wood bezel around there. That actually is new to the car as well. I put that in there today as well. These are really hard to come by. I randomly looked on my Pull Apart Yards website and saw that they had a 2000 Accord with this trimming. So I rushed over there, picked it up, and fortunately it was still there. So there's that. Again, aftermarket Pioneer stereo, automatic climate control right there. Single zone, but still a pretty nice feature for the age of the car. Moving down, there's the control for the 4-speed automatic. I will talk more about that later. I don't have the most positive opinions of that, but we'll get there when the time comes. I think in the previous video I said that this was leather wrapped. However, I'm not so sure about that. I think it's just, again, like a vinyl material. In the center you have a cup holder area that closes off. Open it up. Mine is not clean. I should have cleaned it when I detailed it, but just an oversight, I guess. Passenger seat, not in the worst condition, honestly. This rip or crack has kind of gotten worse over the past few years, but the rest of the seat, including the seat back, is in pretty good condition. I'll make note of the headrest as well. That comes from an 01 to 02 Accord Coupe with the darker interior. I appreciate the way it looks more than the original headrest. Then moving to the passenger side, door panel, pretty much identical to the driver's side. It's just the fact that you're obviously going to be missing some of those controls that were present over there. Glove box right here, nothing too spectacular. I do like the way it kind of folds down. That's just another one of those little quirks that kind of make the car interesting. I keep all of my registration, stuff like that, owner's manual, etc. in this Acura handbook. I found that in a Acura TL at the same pull apart where I got all of that stuff from. See, I have some Honda floor mats. Those are aftermarket, obviously. I never had the factory or original floor mats for this car. There are some carpeted ones that sit underneath the Honda branded ones, but to keep the carpet ones clean, I just put those all-weather ones on top. Again, over there, another mat pocket, and then a speaker as well. In this original form, this actually would have some home link or garage door controls right here. However, my original one kind of fell apart one day, and the one that I found at the pull apart was missing the garage door controls because it was an EX model. The garage door controls, were only available on the EX V6, and honestly, I didn't miss it because I never used it, so it wasn't too much of an issue. LED lights are installed inside of those. This one is like finicky sometimes, but you can see again LED bulbs, and then there is some sunglasses storage in there that I do make use of. Visors right here, no lights, no cover, the cover fell off. Seems to be a common trend in my car, things falling off and me having to replace them. That was not something that I replaced though, and again, don't really have any plans on doing so. Making note of the driver's seat, clearly it has that big rip in the middle, but it doesn't bother me to the point that I'm willing to put seat covers on the car. The seat back is in pretty good condition, and then again, those headrests are from the 01 to 02 Accord EXL Coupe. Seat is power adjustable and 8 ways as well. Moving to the back seat, you can see those same materials from the front door panel carry over to the back. There's the leather insert right there. All of this is soft touch, and then there's that vinyl material to rest your arm on as well. Wood trimming around the door, or the window control, and then the chrome door handle, all of that stuff as well. Again, LED lights, another small pocket. I keep an air freshener in there. You can see the seats themselves are in pretty good condition. I would say phenomenal condition. 9 out of 10 if I'm being honest. No one really sits back here, unless I have like my nephew or something like that. Aside from that, it's always empty. I do keep a trash can in here just because I try to keep the car as clean as possible. You can see both seats have pockets on the back. Those very rarely get used as well. I do keep an umbrella and then a sun shield in here, just in case. Moving to the back seat, you can see in terms of the door panel, those same materials from the front carry over to the back. Soft touch right here, leather insert, and then that vinyl material to rest your arm on as well. Wood trimming around the window controls, another pocket down there, and then again I have LED lighting installed in mine. In terms of the seats themselves, I would say 9 out of 10. People rarely sit back here. If I have my nephews or something, then sure it gets used, but other than that, it's pretty much always empty. I do keep a trash can in here simply because I try to keep this car as clean as possible on both the inside and out. Pockets on each of the seats, and then I do keep just an umbrella and a sun shield in there just in case. Here's a look at the sunroof. I would say for the size of the car, it actually is pretty it's pretty big. I do notice on the newer Accords, the sunroof only takes up a very small portion of the top portion itself. I'm not sure if there's a specific reason for that. Again, LED lighting. Moving to the trunk, it is pretty spacious. I do keep a full-size spare tire underneath here, so it's kind of lifted up some, so it compromises on the space just a little bit, but not by a very noticeable amount. You can see I keep some old car supplies over there. A few extra napkins that I put inside of my car when I need them. The car does retain the jack and everything inside of this little compartment. And then inside of this little space right here are the rest of the tools just in case the tire needs to be changed. Moving to what separates this from the car's 4-cylinder counterparts, this is the J30A1. It's a 3-liter single red cam V6 with VTEC. When the car was brand new, it made 200 horsepower. I highly doubt it's making those original numbers at this point. The car did just have a pretty fair amount of maintenance done. New power steering pump, coolant flush, transmission drain and refill. A good bit of oil leaks were taken care of. That's still not to say the car doesn't still leak oil, but that's a different conversation for a different day. New struts and shocks as well in both the front and rear. Brand new condenser fan, brand new radiator. A few more things. The hood is held up by struts on the V6 models as opposed to the 4 cylinders prop rod. Before we move off of the powertrain, with the V6 models you can only get the 4-speed automatic with great logic control. If you opted for any of the 4-cylinder models aside from the special edition, you could get a 5-speed manual. Taken from the book of Redline Reviews, I've learned that a good impression of quality is the door slam, so we'll see how this 24-year-old car holds up in that regard. And I would say for its age, it still sounds pretty solid. I will reopen the door just so we can hear the ever so famous Honda chime. And you can also hear that when I close my doors, anytime the key is in the ignition, whether it's on, whether it's on accessory, or whether it's simply in there, the doors will lock automatically. I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to do that, but I've learned to get used to it at this point. When I bought the car, the Honda chime did not work, or the door chime, I guess is what I should actually call it, did not work. And I worked until I could figure out what the issue was. And lo and behold, it was just a clock fuse that needed to be replaced. And when I replaced that, my clock started working, obviously. The trip computer started working as it should. And the door chime started working. And the headlight chime as well. I will take a listen to that as well while we're at it. I can't speak for the headlight chime, but I do know Honda no longer uses that door chime. The last Honda vehicle to use that I want to say was the 2015 Honda Odyssey, and the last Accord to use it was the 2012 model. Honestly, doesn't make that much of a difference, no, but for nostalgic purposes, it is nice to still have it. I guess kind of while we're slowing down would be a good time to talk about the driving dynamics, just to talk it through before we get into the actual acceleration part. The car still drives incredibly smooth for its age. There are a few bumps, squeaks, and rattles here and there. Before I got the car's struts and shocks replaced, the car it rode terribly, just to be completely honest. And getting that little bit of maintenance done really helped out a lot. In terms of driving dynamics, it's not a sports car by any means necessary, and if you try to hurry it too much, it doesn't necessarily respond so positively. The transmission, for one, we'll talk about that. It's a 4-speed stepped automatic, so not a DCT, not a CVT. It's just a plebeian basic 4-speed automatic from Honda in the 1990s, and that says enough. This particular transmission, as far as I know, was intended to be somewhat advanced with the old grade logic control system and whatnot, and ultimately ended up being one of Honda's more, if not most, unreliable choices. The transmission on this car went out at around 170,000 miles, right when I bought the car actually, so I had to get it completely remanufactured. And since getting it remanufactured, it has performed, and I'll cross my fingers when I say this, but it has performed pretty smoothly for the most part. I noticed if you try to rush the car too much, or if you just drive off without letting it warm up for a few minutes, it doesn't respond so positively. When this light turns, I'll try to get in it a little bit, and we can see how it does. In the meantime, on the topic of the transmission, I think the one downfall of this car would be the fact that it wasn't offered with a manual transmission. Again, if you got the 4-cylinder, you could get the 5-speed manual on any other trim models except for the special edition, which was only available in 2000 and 2002. I think the availability of at least a 5-speed manual, but ideally a 6-speed, would have been a wonderful decision on Honda's behalf. With that being said, even in that little acceleration run right there, the transmission shifted, honestly, problem-free. It was pretty smooth. The gears are pretty long. There's only 4 of them, so truly it has no choice. But it gets up and goes as well as it needs to. Would I call it fast? Not by any means necessary. I've never done like an official 0 to 60 test because, let's face it, this isn't a performance car, and it is my daily driver, so I try to be as easy on it as I can. Every now and then I get on it simply because it sounds amazing when you do, and I think that's another thing that it gives the car an extra charm. Is it old? Yes. Is it more outdated than most things on the road? Yes. However, it makes up for it in the ways that many people would consider to be trivial and not important, but what people like myself, people who are actually fans of these older Hondas, really value. The sound of VTEC itself is an amazing experience, if you can call it that. I think some people consider it to be a gimmick, and those people are definitely entitled to their opinions. But I think it just kind of sets apart these more, I would even find a fancy way to say it, these older cars, the cars that not many people would want to have, but if you understand it, you understand it. Could I have a newer car? Yes. Did I have a newer car? Not too much newer, but I did have a newer car. But even in experiencing those newer cars, even in test driving some of the newer cars that I tentatively want to get at some point, there's a certain charm that this car has that they don't have. As we're coming up to another light, I'm not going to harp on the car too much because I love it, but it's not all positive. The car is older. It's 24 years old at this point. So things go wrong quite often, if I'm being honest. The car is extremely reliable. It could have all of the issues in the world, but still start up and drive, which is what I love about it. By profession, I'm a teacher, and I'm not making the most money in the world. So I don't have time to, I might have the time, let me rephrase that. I don't have the money to continue to dump in money to issues that are making the car completely undrivable. I just mentioned earlier in the video that I got a bunch of maintenance done on it. And even with getting that maintenance done, the car is not perfect. I wish it was, but I think it's just a matter of the car getting old. There are certain things that are going to happen that are kind of unavoidable. But it's the peace of mind I get knowing that regardless of what's wrong with the car, I can get in, turn the key, and make it from point A to B and back. I have invested more money in maintenance than I would have liked, but at the same time, the amount of money that I've invested into maintenance, I could have used that to purchase a new car at this point. The fact that I didn't, the fact that I'm still willing to put money into this car, I think it says one of two things. Either I'm just absolutely insane and I shouldn't be investing that much money, which, if that's your opinion, then that's completely fine. Or I think I just love the car so much and it has a certain amount of sentimental value to me. Now, with that being said, would I like to have a new car? Most certainly. I've test driven quite a few actually within the past few weeks. And when I am able to do that without putting myself in a financial hole, then yes, I will do that. But for the time being, there's a certain amount of, again, peace of mind that this car gives me. In terms of what I want to get at some point while we're on the topic, I test drove 2 Honda Civic SIs over this past weekend. I test drove a 9th Gen SI. It was a 2015 SI Coupe. Loved the way it drove. I like the fact that it still has the naturally aspirated K24 as opposed to the turbos in the newer ones. And then I also test drove a 2018 or 10th Gen SI as well. That one was a sedan, and surprisingly enough, I actually preferred that over the naturally aspirated 2015, which was a surprise to me. Back on that topic, sorry. I think when I do make that decision, test driving that 2018 SI, honestly, it did kind of sell me on the 10th generation SI. So I think when I'm ready to make that decision, that's what I'll do. I'm gonna take it on the highway just to show off its highway manners. I think this car was built to be a cruiser because that's where it performs the best at. And you'll notice I didn't talk too much during that highway portion, simply because the road noise, or the wind noise I should say, is a little bit excessive on this car. It's not necessarily a complaint, it's more of an observation. I also took it kind of easy coming around that last corner, getting off of the off-ramp. If you try to corner as if you're driving a Civic Type R, the car doesn't necessarily respond the best to that, and I don't fault the car for that. It wasn't built to be a track car, so I can't fault it for that. It does feel very nice to have this car back up and running as my daily driver. Again, if you haven't seen any of the more recent videos, for about 10 months I had a 2004 Honda Accord EXL. It was the K24 with the 5-speed manual, and that car was my daily driver for the past 10 months. My 98 Accord had some pretty severe mechanical issues, and at the time of buying that 04 Accord, my mindset was I was tired of dumping money into this one. And I would say about 4 months into ownership of the 2004, things started going wrong with that. And while I certainly could afford to buy two cars, being able to maintain two older cars was a completely different story. So I reached an ultimatum. I would have to get rid of one of them. And on my list of pros and cons, ultimately my 98 Accord won that battle, and I held on to it. The 7th generation Accord was and still is one of my dream cars. I think I might have made the wrong decision in terms of which one I got. I was never really a fan of the 03 to 05 Accord sedan, that is, simply because the back end, as I've mentioned in a few more videos, it looks kind of awkward. I think had I found an 06 to 07, even if it wasn't my absolute dream car, which is the 06 to 07 V6 sedan with the manual, I think had I found an 06 to 07, at least an EX model with the 5-speed manual, I would probably still have it to this day, and this car might be gone. But again, in that battle, this car ultimately won. It feels good to have it back as my daily driver. And until I'm able to comfortably purchase that 10th generation SI, it'll be here. And I look forward to all of the adventures, all of the miles that I'm able to rack up with it until it's time to retire. And considering the fact that I'm still spending money on trivial things like a wood bezel, I guess that says how much I value it. I think many people don't understand how someone could value an old Honda as much as I and many other people do. But I think to me and to us, these cars aren't simply cars. You develop a bond with them in a sense because they become more than appliances. They become more than things just to get you around. They hold a certain sentimental value that some people just don't understand. And I take it that if you're here, you do somewhat understand that. So I appreciate you for watching. I look forward to documenting whatever journeys this car continues to have with me. If you haven't subscribed already, I look forward to interacting with some people that get it, some people that understand the value that these things hold. So if you haven't subscribed already, I hope this video can convince you to do so. Please leave your feedback, leave a like if you want, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.